Welcome to a new deep dive. Today, we're unpacking a topic that's just foundational to all human connection, expressing feelings. And this isn't just about, expanding your vocabulary. It's really about building bridges, understanding yourself better, and, well, deepening your relationships.
Yeah, it's actually quite remarkable how articulating emotions impacts, well, pretty much everything. Your personal well-being, certainly, but also how successful you are in, say, professional interactions. Our source material today, Expressing Feelings in English, a guide, it offers a really practical roadmap for anyone looking to truly master this.
Exactly. And our mission today is to distill the most important nuggets from this guide. We want to equip you with the practical tools and maybe some cultural insights too, so you can articulate your inner world with, well, newfound confidence.
So let's get into it.
Okay, so the guide really emphasizes the profound importance of actually discussing our feelings. What's maybe one key benefit that might surprise listeners, especially those who, tend to keep emotions private?
Well, it's interesting. The guide makes it really clear that expressing feelings is, and I quote, like letting out what's bottled up inside. And that release, it's incredibly crucial for mental well-being. It's not just about venting, It's a vital part of processing things and moving forward.
That's powerful. Yeah, keeping things bottled up, it definitely takes a toll. And beyond just personal health, the guide highlights how this directness, this openness, it also dramatically improves communication.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, when we articulate our feelings clearly, others get a much better insight into our perspective. And that, in turn, really strengthens relationships. Think about it. Even something simple but profound, like someone saying, I'm feeling a bit sad.
Right.
Right? And then a friend responding, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Can I help? These exchanges, they might seem small, but they're actually the bedrock of trust and deeper connection.
Right. So you're looking at better mental health, clear understanding between people, and stronger relationships. It's a truly potent combination of benefit.
It really is.
So, okay, with the why now firmly established, the guide then helps equip us with the fundamental building blocks. We're talking about the simple, everyday words we use to describe how we feel.
Exactly. It starts right at the basics. Words like happy, which the guide points out isn't just about, smiling, but that broader sense of contentment or joy.
Yeah.
And then there's sad, indicating, feeling low or sorrowful.
Right. And then when something genuinely irritates you or frustrates you, we use angry.
Right.
Or, after a really long day, you might simply feel tired.
Yeah. Familiar feeling for many. The guide also covers excited, for when that anticipation bubbles up, maybe for a holiday or some event. And of course, scared, when something genuinely frightens you, like a loud noise or maybe a spooky movie.
And a word that I think resonates with many is nervous, that kind of unsettled feeling before something big, like a presentation or a test. Actually, the guide even surprisingly mentions feeling nervous before, get this, recording a first podcast episode. Totally. It just highlights how common and relatable these basic feelings really are.
Definitely.
Now, here's a quick, but I think quite practical tip from the guide. It's about how you phrase your feelings. You can often use I feel or I am. What's the deal there?
Yeah, this is a good point. Basically, both are widely accepted. They're pretty much interchangeable in daily conversation. So I feel tired and I am tired. They convey the same state.
Okay.
Now, if you want to get really technical, maybe I feel sometimes implies a more subjective or temporary experience. But honestly, the guide wisely suggests just not overthinking it initially. Just use whichever feels more natural to you.
Right. Don't get bogged down. Good advice. But, our emotional landscape, it's rarely limited to just those basic feelings, is it?
Not at all.
So the guide then challenges us to articulate more nuanced feelings, and this is where things get really interesting, I think.
Indeed. It introduces words like frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that feeling when you're facing difficulties and things just aren't going your way.
Oh.
Or overwhelmed, or the sheer volume of tasks or maybe emotions just feels like too much to handle.
I know that one. And anxious. It's like nervous, but maybe more intense. A lot of worry often comes with it.
Exactly, a stronger sense of unease. Then there's the positive side, like proud, that sense of deep satisfaction you get from your own or maybe someone else's achievement.
That's a great feeling.
Definitely. The guide also mentions lonely, which is a really powerful feeling of isolation, right? Even if you're actually surrounded by people.
Mm.
And maybe it's opposite, confident, that strong belief in your own abilities, feeling good about yourself.
Right. And finally, disappointed for when things just don't go the way you hoped or expected. These words, they provide so much more precision, don't they? They let you paint a much clearer picture of your internal state for someone else.
Absolutely. Precision is key.
Okay, so once you have the right words, how do you then convey the strength, the intensity of that feeling? You're not just sad, you might be really sad.
Yeah, that's crucial too. And the guide offers an excellent set of what it calls intensity modifiers. Think about adding adverbs like a little or a bit. Very, really, extremely, even completely. So, for example, you might be a bit sad, like you said, or maybe really happy, or in difficult situations, even completely devastated. These little words, they truly color your expressions and help you communicate the exact depth of your emotion.
That makes a huge difference. It's not just black and white. And okay, to truly master expressing emotions in English, the guide brings in something fun. Idioms.
Yes, idioms. Always a bit tricky, but very expressive.
Right. These are those phrases where the overall meaning is totally different from the literal words. What are some classics the guide mentions?
Well, a fantastic one for joy is I'm on cloud 9. Just means you're incredibly happy, ecstatic even.
Love that one. Or maybe if you're feeling a bit sick or unwell.
You'd say I'm feeling under the weather. It's a very common, slightly gentler way to say you're not feeling great.
Mm-hmm. And another vivid one it mentions.
He's walking on eggshells. It paints this great picture, right? Someone being extremely careful, trying really hard not to upset another person.
Yeah, you can just see it. And for, profound sadness or disappointment.
A powerful one.
Yeah.
Broke my heart. It means something made you deeply sad or very disappointed.
Wow. These idioms, yeah, they might not be literal, but they're such powerful ways to connect, especially with native speakers, and just express that depth of feeling.
Definitely adds flavor to your English.
So this deep dive, it's not just about you expressing your own feelings, right? The guide also covers that equally important skill of, engaging with others about their feelings. How do you gently ask someone how they are feeling without being, too pushy?
That's a delicate balance. The guide emphasizes a really compassionate approach. It suggests kind, open-ended phrases like, how are you really feeling? That really adds depth.
Nice catch.
Or maybe, do you want to talk about it? Or even just, is something on your mind? These kinds of questions, they open the door to a genuine conversation, show you care, but they don't feel intrusive.
Yeah, they give the other person space. Okay, and then when someone does choose to share their feelings with you, maybe they say they're feeling overwhelmed or sad, how does the guide suggest responding? You want to be empathetic, supportive.
Right. And often, simple, authentic responses are the key. They build trust. Phrases like, that must be really hard, just acknowledging their struggle.
Yeah.
Or, I understand how you feel. if you genuinely do. Or simply, I'm here for you.
Hmm.
Even just, thanks for sharing that with me. That validation can be incredibly effective. It shows you're listening and you appreciate their trust.
Those are great, simple, but powerful. Okay, let's try and connect these concepts more to your daily life. The guide offers some really good practical examples, doesn't it? To bring these words and idioms to life.
It does. For instance, after maybe a particularly demanding day at work, you might say something like, I feel tired and a bit frustrated today. So many meetings.
Right. Or before, say, a long-awaited trip, you could excitedly tell someone, I'm so excited for my vacation. I'm seriously on cloud nine.
Exactly. See how they fit right in. Or, on a more serious note, perhaps after a difficult event like a breakup, you might express that sorrow. I'm just really sad right now. It honestly broke my heart.
Yeah, it makes it very real.
And the source also specifically talks about emotional expression in the workplace, which is important. It offers really useful phrases like, I'm feeling burned out, which clearly indicates a need to maybe manage stress better.
It's a common one.
Or even, I need a mental break. Just clearly articulating a boundary or, a need for some respite. This kind of precise language, it's actually vital for professional well-being and clear communication with colleagues or managers.
Definitely helps avoid misunderstandings. Now, broadening our perspective a bit, the guide touches on something crucial, cultural context. How we express feelings isn't universal, right?
No, not at all. And this is a truly fascinating insight from the guide. While some cultures might favor more subtle or perhaps nonverbal emotional cues,
Right.
the guide notes that English often encourages clear emotional expression. It's part of learning the language and culture. Understanding this tendency, this sort of cultural leaning, can help you not just choose the right words, but also, importantly, interpret social cues and cultural expectations when you're interacting in English-speaking environments.
So it's not just about vocabulary, it's about understanding the unwritten rules, too.
Precisely. It's a key to deeper cross-cultural understanding, really.
Okay. So as you, our listener, start to integrate all these insights into your own practice, what does this all mean for you? The guide leaves us with some practical, actionable tips, doesn't it?
It does. Really concrete things you can do. Tip 1, keep a feelings journal. Just dedicate maybe a few minutes each day to writing down how you feel in English. It's a very private, low-pressure way to explore this vocabulary and just get comfortable with it.
I like that. Low stakes. Okay, tip 2.
Tip 2, describe your day using emotion words. So instead of just saying, it was fine or it was okay.
Yeah, the standard answers.
Right. Try something more specific like, well, it started out a bit stressful, but actually, I felt really proud after finishing that big project.
It pushes you to actively use the language you're learning.
Makes sense. Practice makes perfect.
Exactly. The more you actively practice, the more natural and instinctive these expressions will become. And this sort of raises an important question for you, our listener. As you reflect on this deep dive we've done, what's maybe one new phrase or perhaps one concept that you're excited to try and incorporate into your communication today?
And remember, don't worry too much about mistakes. Every step you take in expressing your feelings more accurately, well, it's a step towards greater connection. It's a journey.
Absolutely. We've really taken quite a deep dive into the art of expressing feelings in English today. We've pulled out essential vocabulary, some powerful idioms, and looked at practical applications, all drawing from our source guide. And it seems clear that this skill, it isn't just about linguistic proficiency, is it? It's really about deeper self-understanding and ultimately forging richer human connections.
Indeed. I mean, the ability to articulate your emotions with precision, and also with that cultural awareness we talked about. It's such a powerful tool. For personal growth, yes, but also just for navigating the, let's face it, intricate dance of human interaction day to day. It really allows for much greater clarity, more authenticity, and hopefully more empathy in all your exchanges.
Well said. So, as you go about your day, maybe consider this. If truly understanding and expressing your feelings in English can transform your communication and your relationships so significantly, what other areas of your life might benefit from the precision and the insight that a deeper, more nuanced vocabulary can offer? Something to think about.
Good question. And maybe just checking in. How are you feeling today? Right now, having explored these ideas with us, we really hope this deep dive has given you plenty to reflect on and, more importantly, plenty to actively practice.